Television person sent me an email. I share so much of your sentiment. So much of the enjoyment's been sucked out of it. Any chance this ever ends? That's the question, isn't it? Well, let me ask you this. When has anything, any issue, any idea, anything that the left wants to take over and use to advance its agenda, when have they ever left it? When have they ever decided, okay, we've done what we accomplished and we're moving on? Have they let go of the abortion issue? Have they let go of Trump? Have they ever decided it's okay to like Republicans? Look at how many years Washington Republicans and those who want to be Washington Republicans have been trying to buy appeasement and peace and love from the drive-by media and the Democrat Party. And has it ever worked? Well, yes, it has, but you have to do John McCain to make it work. You have to turn on your own party to make it work. That's the only way. And then it's not everlasting love. The minute you do a John McCain and start turning on your own party, but then return to your party to say seek the presidency or some other office, then they return to hating you and sliming you. When do they ever let go of something? They don't let go, folks. This is why I'm still sad. This note is right on the money. The enjoyment has been sucked out of this. I will admit that I tuned in for a quarter last night. I just wanted to see if I could watch an NFL game without all of this front and center in my mind. And I couldn't. Even if I had turned the sound down. The sound, the commentators, the play-by-play people, they constantly reference it, and there were flashback video highlights of the Cowboys' pregame technique of taking a knee in unison on the field and then rising for the national anthem in unity. And some people are saying, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Fine, if that's how you do it, you're still doing it. And you're still sucking the lifeblood out of the game. For this fan. Anyway, so a game that I saw, the portion of the game I saw was exciting. It was, I think, tied 7-7 or 14-7. And the Arizona offensive line couldn't block anybody. Carson Palmer was getting beat up. He had open receivers, but couldn't have time to get the ball to him. But then there came a reminder, but I don't know. I turned it off. I just ran my little experiment. I really hope it ends, folks. I really do. I would love nothing more than for all this stuff to end and return to normalcy. But we're dealing with liberalism here, and we're dealing with the left, and that's just not how they operate. Everybody knows how much I love the NFL and how bigger than life it's always seemed to me, but it doesn't seem bigger than life. It just seems like a tool now. It's become a tool. I don't mean slang for fool. It has become something being used by the political forces of the left to advance their agenda, which is an anti-American agenda. And believe me, this is all about race. It's not about anything. It's not about equality. It's not about all these other bromides. It's all about race. The left has their hooks in it, and when that happens, it just never ends well. I'd like for this to be the first time. I'd like for this to be the first organization that effectively spit the left out, said, leave us alone. That isn't going to happen. I would love it if it did. I also think, maybe going out on a limb here. The New York Times has a story today saying that the close relationship between owners and players is going to be short-lived or short-lived. And they have their reasons why, and their reasons why are typically New York Times. Well, they're rich billionaires, and they really have nothing in common, and they're doing this all for show. They don't really mean it. That's not why I think they're fooling themselves. I think the NFL owners are fooling themselves if they think they can buy goodwill with the political forces pushing us. I'm not talking about the players. The players, they've been caught up in this, and they are every bit as they're not the leaders of this. I don't care what people think about Kaepernick. Where is he, by the way? They are the tools. They are the people being used to advance this, just like the bought and paid for protesters at a Black Lives Matter rally or a St. Louis, Missouri, Ferguson, Missouri rally or riot. I think the owners are fooling themselves if they believe that they can buy goodwill with the political forces on the left causing all of this, because they're going to remain who they are. They're going to remain white billionaires, just like David Koch. Remember, one of the wealthiest men in America gave $25 or $50 million to a New York hospital, and the Nurses Association and other unions demanded the hospital reject it because Koch didn't mean it. He was just trying to mask his genuine and true racism, and he was just trying to make sure people didn't see him that way. Well, that's how the left, that's how they deal with genuine good works and charitable efforts if they come from people that they consider to be their political enemies. It's just like I said, the Republicans can't buy love the media. Republicans cannot. There's nothing they can do genuinely. The media is always going to reject them when it's in their advantages. They'll use them as much as they can, but they will kick them out of the club whenever it is necessary and useful. So I think it's going to be hard for the owners to actually buy this solidarity. But again, everything's being done here through the lens of the media, and the owners want these pictures of themselves taking a knee, linking with the players. And they think they're buying something with this, and I don't believe they are. Lou Holtz was on Fox today. He's the former coach at Notre Dame, the former coach at Arkansas, the former coach at South Carolina. Played golf with Lou Holtz at a charity tournament at Lake Tahoe, and flew back home with him. And he's a great guy. I love talking to him. He's a motivational expert. He's a history expert. And it was fun trading back and forth philosophies on things with him. He's just a great guy. He was on Fox and Friends today. Brian Kilmeade spoke to him. Coach, how do you feel about the president weighing in on all this stuff going on in the NFL?
Let me make sure I understand this right. 200 NFL players making millions of dollars, takes a knee, disrespect the flag, and the president, the leader of this country, doesn't have the right to say, I think that's wrong. This is a workplace environment, and he has the right to fire people. He has the right to speak out his mind. This isn't about race. It's all about a philosophy.
But you see, it is about race. That's the thing. It's all about race. The left wants it to be about race. That makes me sad, too, that we can't get past that. They're not going to let us get past that. We want to get past that. Look at all the effort that has been made to demonstrate that there's no racism. There is. You've got pockets, you've got individuals, but in terms of the way the country is now, we've moved beyond our original sin. But they don't want that perception. They want the perception, and I'm not talking about the players here. I'm talking about the leaders of this. They want the perception that this is still a backward country rooted in separatism and racism and inequality. And so they will not allow getting past this. And that makes me sad, too. And that's made me sad for a long, long time. And then to have to sit here and be part of the group that they blame for it. So anyway, Kilmeade said, Coach Holtz, if you're the NFL, how do you get out of this? There's nobody winning here.
I would say to our football team, we will not use our football team for any personal cause. I feel the same thing about the NFL. This is about the ability to win. I wish that President Trump would put me in charge of getting the athletes to going into the inner city high school. You have 32 different cities. Go into the NFL and talk to the young people about making good choices. You're in the NFL because you made good choices, because you worked hard, developed your skills and talents. You didn't join a game. It's all about making choices. There are thousands of words in the English vocabulary, and the most important word by far is choice. You're on that football team. I want to win, and you want to promote a cause. That's a problem because we have different objectives. That's why the coaches and the owners and everybody else sees this happening, and they know they can't win if everybody has a different objective for being on the team.
Bingo. Bingo. Now, I'm reminded I have in my stack here a column by the estimable Walter Williams, a former guest host here at the EIB Network. And man, oh man, is it hard-hitting on the state of education for African Americans in this country. And let me just sum it up for you. I'm going to give you more details, but he says that the average college freshman African American, athlete or not, average, essentially has an 8th grade education. But they're not treated that way. They're treated as though they're 20, 21, 22, and presumed to be adults. And he's dead serious about it. And he said the reason people are talking past each other is because our public education system is so bad that we have adults here. It's not just all African Americans, by the way. There's a lot of white people that are ill-educated in our public school system, but many of them in college, you can graduate from high school not being able to read your degree. And the average education level we're talking about here is 8th grade, and he's an educator, and he's a professor himself. We'll get to that and the details. Meanwhile, President Trump ramped up his fight with the NFL today, calling on the league to ban players from kneeling in protest at games while the U.S. national anthem is being played. The president said the NFL has all sorts of rules and regulations. The only way out for them is to set a rule that you cannot kneel during the national anthem. This is a Twitter post. Representatives for the league and the players' union could not be reached immediately for comment. This story basically in the last hour or so, and it is a Reuters story. Selena Zito, who lives in Pittsburgh and has done amazing work going into the parts of states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, finding former blue-collar, white-collar, working-class people that always voted Democrat, who voted for Donald Trump this time. She found them during the campaign, and she predicted that Trump was going to win these states based on the work and the interviews that she had done with these people. She has stayed in touch with many of them. She continues to make visits back to these areas to take the temperature of these people as events have transpired in the country since Trump was elected and then inaugurated. She lives in Pittsburgh, and she set out to talk to some Steelers fans. Now, I lived in Pittsburgh during the 70s when the Steelers Super Bowl dynasty was forming, and that was the time that the steel mills were closing. That was the time that the primary economic engine of Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas was dying. And I'm telling you, folks, and I learned this when I worked for the Kansas City Royals, particularly in non-major market cities. Pittsburgh's a big city, but it's not a major market. Kansas City, by major, I'm talking about top 10, top 8, something like that. I don't mean to be putting anybody down. The size here is important. It was amazing to me to see. I wasn't a Steelers fan when I arrived in Pittsburgh. I wasn't even particularly an NFL fan. I watched it, but I wasn't a fanatic. I mean, I really wasn't a sports fan. I was so into my career. I had just left home, and that consumed me. But it didn't take long. I got caught up in the Steelers, and to this day, I remain. The Pittsburgh Steelers are far and away the sports team with which I have any kind of fan type relationship. It has not abated. It has not disappointment when they lose, and it all happened in the 70s with that team. And that team, that organization, meant a crucial amount to the self-esteem of the city because the rest of the city was dying. It was fascinating. Wasn't aware of this at the time. I'm 22, 23, and I'm just getting into it. I'm older when I'm working for the Royals. Same situation there. When I worked for the Royals, they were winning every year and losing to the Yankees in the playoff. But they were winning the division, and they were going to the playoffs. And they owned the town. The Kansas City Royals were they were glue. It united everybody in the city about something. And as in the marketing department, your purpose is to get more people to come to the games more often. You study this stuff and try to figure out how to reach them. And, I found myself saying things I'd never said before. The self-esteem of a city is tied to the performance of its team. And it was. But Pittsburgh, I'm living evidence here. I couldn't have cared less, and I got caught up in it. And it has not abated in Pittsburgh either until Sunday. Selena Zito found some Steeler fans. They're kind of like me. They're not mad. They're shocked. They can't believe the whole thing not coming out of the tunnel for the anthem. And then Alejandro Villanueva did. Now he's apologizing for doing it. And people are scratching their heads. Well, this is backwards here. He comes out, stands for the anthem, puts his hand over his heart, and apologizes to the team and the coach for showing them up. He thought there were going to be people closer to him. He didn't think he was going to be that exposed as the only guy that appeared to be standing for the anthem. Anyway, all of this is just nonsense. And none of it has anything to do with why you like the game. None of it has anything to do with why you want to watch the game. All it's doing is sucking the enjoyment out of it. For me, anyway. It's exactly the point. But I've got some. Everybody wants to move off of this. This is not what people want to talk about when they talk about the NFL. But there are a couple things, folks. You know me. I need to say a couple things about this so that they get said. And then we're going to move on. I have that great piece from yesterday by Kurt Schlichter. What really has become of the conservative movement in America. And he's exactly right. And it's one of those pieces that, yeah, it's exactly what I think, but you've never said it yourself. Anyway, the Steelers and these other teams like Jerry Jones are all talking about team unity, wanting to maintain team unity. But they do not understand how left-wing politics works. Left-wing politics is not about unity. I don't care what they say, that's not what it's about. And it's not about equality. Left-wing politics is not about unifying. The Democrat Party is not about unifying people. And all you have to do is listen to watch what they do. They all talk about unity. All of this NFL stuff about unity. You hear the word. Everybody's bandying the word about unity. We're unified. Unified last. Unity between who here? Who are we trying to create unity with? Who are they trying to create unity with? This isn't about unity. What are we trying to unify around here? The NFL players are protesting, echoing Kaepernick. They're protesting the anthem. They're taking a knee. They're not, whatever. What is it? Are they protesting Trump now? Are they protesting the flag? Are they protesting police brutality? Take your pick. What is the unity? They want unity of opposition to that with which they disagree. They don't want unity with people they disagree with. They want unified opposition. They're not trying to cross any bridge here or cross any aisle and unify with people, and particularly Trump. And this is where I don't think the NFL owners have a clue what this is all about. They're all spouting unity. Now, they would love to have unity with their teams, of course. But I think they're scared. They've got a decision to make. Do they unify with their players or unify with their fans? To me, that's the seminal choice here. And they're scared to death of losing their players. They're scared to death of player walkouts, sit-ins, or what have you. They're more afraid of that than they're afraid of you leaving because they think you're going to come back. They think this is just temporary. It's a blip, and that you're going to come back because you always have, and you'll come back, and it'll be like it used to be with a couple of adjustments. That's what they think. But they think if they lose the players, then it's over. But the left is not seeking unity with anybody. You see unity on college campus? You see a conservative comes out to speak? You see their attempt of the leftist opposition to unify with them? No, they bring the cops out and they beat them up. They now advocate violence against people who are simply uttering words they disagree with. So the people in this don't even know what unity is. And they don't understand that liberal politics works specifically by dividing people. Liberal politics succeeds and advances as people are divided, as chaos is created. Obama was an expert at it. Obama was the most divisive president we've ever had. And all of this stuff, by the way, began when Obama was president, not with Trump. Kaepernick took the knee when Obama was president. All the police brutality and all this stuff that had them all ticked off happened when Obama was president. First African-American president. Supposed to end all of this, right? Didn't end any of it, did it? In fact, got worse, didn't it? Why did it get worse? I thought it was going to end. I thought people were finally going to see that we'd elected an African-American president, and that'd be an exclamation point to the idea that we're not a racist nation. Didn't work, did it? It got even more divided in America. And then they came along and divided people on gender and then sexual orientation and then sexual preference, and they keep dividing people. Do I think the NFL owners understand this? Maybe a couple, I'm guessing, just based on percentages. But on broad strokes, no. Does Goodell understand this? No. They're all caught up in the media presentation, the daily soap opera of this. Everybody's caught up in the grievance aspect of this. And they're all making the calculation that what they must say and do, and what they are saying and doing, is because that's where most of the country is. And that's where they're wrong. Most of the country's not with Black Lives Matter. Most of the country's not with the new Black Panther Party. Most of the country's not with Occupy Wall Street, and right now most of people not with the Democrat Party. Not nationwide. Disunity, chaos, division, dividing people and putting them into categories, ethnic identities, ethnic politics. All of this is the current political philosophy of the American left. There is no unity at all unless you cave and join them. Not only do they strive for disunity, they revel in pitting groups against each other to further the chaos. They are reveling in what is happening now in the NFL, and it's why it makes me sad. They are reveling in this division. And football has always been a respite from all of that, and so has baseball been, and so has every other entertainment option. But you can't escape it going to the movies anymore. You can't escape it watching television anymore. And now you can't escape it watching the NFL anymore. And people are duly noting this. And I bet you, for a lot of people, this is an eye-opening thing. A lot of people are apolitical. They avoid politics anyway because they don't like it. But now it is infecting and infesting the National Football League. And it's not good. It used to be, take a look at the example I gave of the Steelers in Pittsburgh in the 70s. You might scoff, but I'm telling you this is true. Back then, with the primary economic engine of Pittsburgh dying, the steel mills closing and related industries closing, the Steelers, the players, typified blue-collar, hard work, no excuses, tough, hard-hitting, and the players were considered by the fans to just be one of them. There wasn't any difference other than the players could do something the fans couldn't. But in terms of the kind of people, the fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s thought those players were Pittsburghers, and they were them. Yeah, they made a little bit more money, but they were the same people. That's not the case in professional football today. The players and the fans are not, the fans especially, do not consider themselves. They do not consider the players to be one of them. I'll guarantee them to you, they don't. But it used to be that way. And so now politics is entered, and you got to pick a side. The owners have to pick a side. The fans have to pick a side. And we're not talking about picking a side to win the game. We're talking about pick a side politically. Do you support Kaepernick? Do you think the owners are shafting Kaepernick by not hiring? Do you think the owners are a bunch of white racists? Or do you stand with Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick and whatever else is behind these protests of the flag? The Steelers, I said yesterday, Coach Tomlin, I knew exactly what he was doing by trying to keep that team off the field. He wanted them to avoid having to make the choice in public to either kneel or stand. He wanted to avoid the politics of it. Admirable. Wanted to not be part of it, didn't want his players thrust into it, but he found out, didn't he? It doesn't work that way because the left will not let you avoid it. Alejandro Villanueva went to Ben Roethlisberger and said, could I stand with the captains as we go out? Could I be at the front so that in the tunnel so that I could be seen? He wanted to do the thing that's right when the anthem is playing. Captains of the teams lead the teams out. Alejandro Villanueva is not a captain. He asked Roethlisberger, the quarterback, could I stand with you guys? He said, yeah, of course. Well, Villanueva happened to be a little too far out in the tunnel while the rest of the team was invisibly just behind him in the tunnel. He was exposed. He's now apologizing for letting his coach down. He's now apologizing for letting his teammates down. He's the guy that did the right thing. And he's apologizing for letting his brothers down, his teammates. We hear these guys talk about we're in this, we're brothers. We got each other's backs. They didn't have Alejandro Villanueva's back Sunday. Now he feels bad that he didn't have theirs. This is not what all of this is supposed to be. This is exactly what it looks like when the disease, the cancer of liberalism, infects and corrupts an institution. ASAP, I promise. This will be a great opportunity to delve into the Walter Williams column that I referred to earlier. It's got nothing to do with the NFL. I mean, that's not why he wrote it. It comes from way back on September 20th, about a week ago. And the title of his column, where did this run? The link is so tiny I can't. Looks like Daily Signal. The black family is struggling, and it's not because of slavery. Now, Walter Williams, a former guest host here, he's a brilliant guy, very conservative individual. Let me give you a couple pull quotes. And by the way, none of this is new information. We've talked about it before over the years. None of this is new. We've known about the problems with single-parent families, single motherhood. We've known about this. And it's independent of race. We've known about this for decades. But it's one of these things nobody will stand up and talk about because it's racist. It's bigoted. It's intolerant. It doesn't exhibit understanding of the new definition of family in America, you see. But we allow it to continue. And now we celebrate single motherhood and young single mothers, and we praise them. They become dependent on the state. They become loyal Democrat voters, and we create these new ways of defining family and call it growth. You know, we call it maturity and so forth. Couple pull quotes. In 1960, just 22% of black children were raised in single-parent families. 1960. 50 years later, more than 70% of black children are raised in single-parent families. So we've gone from 22% to 70% in 50 years. Here's the question Walter Williams asks. What is, or was the increase in single-parent black families after 1960 a legacy of slavery, or might it be a legacy of the welfare state ushered in by the war on poverty? Williams believes that the rise of single-parent families is directly attributable to the creation of the welfare state, the war on poverty. The government became the father. The government assumed the financial obligations of the father, meaning the father need not hang around. So I say, you've heard all of this, but you don't dare say it even today, unless you want to be accused of division, disunity, and inequality and racism and all the others. Another pull quote. Two-parent black families are rarely poor. Two-parent black families are rarely poor. Only 8% of black married families live in poverty. Among black families in which both the husband and wife work full-time, the poverty rate is under 5%. Poverty in black families headed by single women is 37%. The Democrat Party has targeted single mothers as a primary voting bloc. The Democrat Party has identified single mothers as a rising population cohort and has devised policies to reach them. The Democrat Party benefits from this, and they are the only ones who do. The problems of today's black Americans are a result of a legacy of slavery, racial discrimination, and poverty has achieved an axiomatic status thought to be self-evident and beyond question. This is what academics and civil rights establishments have taught, but there's little evidence to support it. Little evidence. And by the way, he's exactly right. All of these problems with single-parent, single mothers, African-American populations, they say it's a legacy of slavery. And, of course, people that don't know any better accept it and believe it, start feeling guilty about it, and then are easily swayed into believing that white privilege is the reason all this exists. And now these kids that believe that are in college, refusing to let people they disagree with speak. The number one problem among blacks is the effects stemming from a very weak family structure. The bottom line of his piece, as time begins to evaporate here, is this. At the end of the piece, then there's education. Many black 12th graders deal with scientific problems at the level of whites in the 6th grade. They write and do math about as well as white 7th and 8th graders. These are academic studies. This is not his opinion. This is research that has been performed and documented. All of this means that an employer hiring or a college admitting a typical black high school graduate is in effect hiring or admitting an 8th grader. And on that, take a break. Time has come. Obamacare. Louie Gohmert. Respect, sir, you have brain cancer. You should. Louie Gohmert to John McCain. There's that. We've got. How about this headline? How did marriage become a mark of privilege? Wait till you hear what that's about. We got loaded stuff, folks. We'll be right back. Phone number 800-282-2882. The email address lrushbo@eibnet.us. Republican Congressman Louie Gohmert of Texas. It's Texas. It isn't Texas. It's Texas. And it's even better if you're wearing a J.R. Ewing 10-gallon Stetson when you say it. Anyway, Louie Gohmert yesterday urged Arizona to recall Senator McCain amid his recent brain cancer diagnosis while criticizing McCain for going back on his 2016 campaign promise to repeal Obamacare. Gohmert was on Fox and Friends yesterday morning. He said McCain's one of those that said, I will repeal. If he had said last year what he was going to do, he would have lost. If he would have told the people of Arizona that this is what he was going to do, he would have lost. And then Louie Gohmert said this: nothing inhibits recovery from cancer like stress. I think Arizona could help him and help us. Recall him, let him fight successfully this terrible cancer, and let's get someone in here who will keep the word he gave last year. McCain's office did not respond to Fox News' request for comment on Gohmert's remarks. And as per a Congressional Research Service report, the United States Constitution does not provide for nor authorize the recall of United States officers such as senators, representatives, or the president or vice president. They can be expelled by their colleagues, but not recalled by voters. So what Louie wanted, what Louie suggested, what Louie advised, can't be done. The Mueller investigation. I've had a couple of things. No, I'm not through with the NFL. I'm just mixing it up. We spent 2.5 hours in this NFL yesterday, and I've said what I have to say about it. But there's more I have to say about it, but I've gotten the crux of it. This whole thing's got to be demolished. Folks, this upstart movement here has got to be, like everything else on the left, it has to be defeated. There is no unity with it. There is no meeting halfway. That's not what they're about. They are about the division, disunity, and dividing people is precisely how the left and the Democrat Party advance. Now, it's not working for the Democrat Party in terms of winning elections, but it is winning for the left in roiling our culture and depressing people and making it has its effects, and that's why they're going to keep doing it. Anyway, the Mueller investigation, there are a lot of things about this that are being whispered but not being said. Let me say something. I was in a chat with a buddy last night who's very upset about this NFL. He thinks Trump ought to be doing totally different things. This NFL thing is a waste of time. The guy said to me, is this what Trump wants to be known for when this is all over? Look at the time he's wasting. Now, this guy cares only about tax cuts. The only way he thinks in the rest of his life he's ever going to have any more money in his pocket. He can't earn anymore. He's maxed out in what he does. The only way, and it's a philosophical thing, too. He doesn't think the government deserves this much money from him or the rest of us. And you wouldn't either if you saw a list of every tax you pay, local, city, state, federal. If you saw a list, your phone bill, your cable bill, if you saw a genuine list of the taxes you pay, you'd revolt. This guy knows, and he's fed up. And he supported Trump because he believed Trump on the wall and Obamacare and tax cuts. And he thought tax cuts should have been the first thing. And now he's watching the Republicans say they can't repeal Obamacare and they may not get their tax cuts. And now the top marginal rate may not go down below 35. It's at 39.6. And this guy is, I wouldn't call him despondent, but and he's not ready to cut Trump loose. He's just frustrated. He thinks there's all kinds of stuff Trump could be doing. I wrote back, I said, what Trump is, this is our culture, man. We are losing our culture. We are losing the cohesiveness that made this country great. We are losing the American, distinct, unique American culture and identity. To me, it is issue number one. All the rest of this stuff pales if we lose this. He wrote back, said, really? I said, yes, that's exactly. This cultural rot is the number one problem I think we've got. And precisely because nobody's talking about it. Everybody's trying to make peace with it. We're being lied to by the left about their objectives, unity, equality. That's the last things that they're for. And so he said, well, you know what, this Mueller thing, if Trump's going to get impeached soon. That's what this Mueller thing's all about. And if he doesn't get something serious done, he's not going to have a legacy to speak of. And that's when I said, I'm not sure I agree with you on that either. And I said, don't forget something very, very important here. And that is Donald Trump runs the Department of Justice. He said, what do you mean by that? I said, Donald Trump runs the Department of Justice. Now, let's look at the Mueller investigation. I have a story here. It's a Gateway Pundit. Headline, Mueller investigation desperate as more information about Obama's illegal spying is uncovered. Do you realize what's happening here? The Mueller investigation keeps hiring people, and they can't find a crime. There wasn't a Trump crime that got the special counsel going. Remember, we've talked about this. The special counsel regulation, law, whatever it is, specifies that the attorney general or acting attorney general has to have an underlying crime for which a special counsel to pursue. Well, this doesn't have that. They have nothing but allegations of collusion with the Russians based on a phony dossier put together with Democrat operatives working with the Russians. You know, the Golden Showers dossier. There's nothing in it that's true, and it forms the basis of the Mueller investigation. It formed the basis of the Obama effort to get Trump investigated in the first place. There's nothing there. And Mueller hasn't found it. What's to be found, though, there was election rigging. It happened in the Democrat Party. There were crimes that Hillary Clinton committed with her email server. An election was rigged, and it has been documented, and it can be proven. And it happened on the Democrat side. And it happened with Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz and Hillary Clinton. Now, my point here is that I wouldn't be surprised if the Mueller investigation is discovering some of this stuff, and they're frustrated. This is not what they want to find. They can't find any Trump crimes, is what I'm hearing. They continue to search in vain for a Trump crime. There's another. New York Magazine, this is from our old buddies at Newsbusters. Did New York Magazine admit the Mueller investigation's a fishing expedition? And yesterday's New York Magazine had the, what's the date of this? So yeah, it's yesterday's, so the day before. New York Magazine had the best summary of the state of the Trump-Russia collusion investigation by Mueller yet written. It was contained in a single paragraph buried deep in an article with no other surprises. So you would have to look for this. Yet despite having to wade through material which basically tells us what we already know about the investigation, that one paragraph is so stunning in its revelation amid an otherwise routine summary of what Mueller is up to that it hits the reader like a hard slap across the face. Now, before revealing that paragraph, New York Magazine correspondent Christian Farias, and he may pronounce it Farias, I don't know, reminds us that it is quite extraordinary that a private citizen, Paul Manafort, was secretly surveilled twice via FISA warrants. FISA warrants are for international terrorists, criminals, foreign agents. But the New York Magazine guy says it is quite extraordinary that a private citizen secretly surveilled twice by FISA warrants. It is stunning. It confirms that Trump was, he was fairly close to being right when he claimed that his wires in Trump Tower were tapped. Now, the writer at the New York Magazine also lets us know that it would probably be wise for other possible targets of the Mueller investigation to go get lawyers, even if they've got nothing to hide, which is also true. Now, here's the paragraph. Now, the reason I mention this, even a New York Magazine writer reveals, this is really odd, 2 FISA warrants on a private citizen that had surveillance operations going on at the residence building of Donald Trump. That's kind of odd. Then this is the revelatory paragraph. One individual who is familiar with an aspect of the Mueller inquiry but asked not to be named told New York Magazine that unlike other federal probes that he's seen in action, where prosecutors build their cases from clear allegations, this one feels different. This is a backward investigation, the individual said. You don't have a crime. So an individual familiar with the Mueller inquiry told New York Magazine there isn't a crime. Now, not at the beginning. There isn't a crime now. They haven't found a crime. He continued, this is a backward investigation. You don't have a crime, you're searching, and so you're not really sure exactly what you're searching for. So you start asking around and you see what comes up. And you start creating a paradigm and you see what else comes up, and you figure out at some point whether or not there's a crime. That paragraph did stand out to me when I read this whole piece. There is no crime even now. But they have to be, the Mueller people, and I know they're all Hillary and Obama people. Don't misunderstand here. But as deep as they're digging, they have to have uncovered some stuff on the Democrat side. I remember some people theorized this might actually happen when this all got started, that there isn't any crime, there isn't any collusion with Trump and Russia and all this, but there is a whole bunch of shady stuff that happened on the Democrat side, and you start pulling back the covers, you're going to find it. So what do they do if they find it? Trump runs the Department of Justice. He can be told anything he wants about what's going on there. So I told my buddy last night, don't give up the ship yet. It's entirely possible this thing's going to end up the exact opposite of the way you've been led to believe, that Trump's going to be impeached. And they still want to do that. But what if the evidence produced actually points fingers at Democrats? So I said, don't give up the ship yet. And a guy won't, but he's disappointed. He thinks this NFL stuff is, and he's a media guy, so he sees everything through the lens of the media, and he thinks this NFL stuff is way beneath what Trump ought to be doing. Trump ought not be wasting time on it. I disagree. I think it's cultural and it's relevant and it's important. And I also, there's a theory going around. See what you think of this. Theory going around, the real reason Trump's doing this is, by the way, it's not that he's mad at the NFL because they wouldn't let him buy a team. He used to own the New Jersey Generals U.S. Football League. That was a football league that competed with the NFL back in the 80s. They played in the springtime. And he owned the New Jersey Generals, and his star player was Herschel Walker. Well, he wanted to get into the NFL, then they said no. But when the Buffalo Bills were sold to the Pagulas, Terry and Kim Pagula, Trump made a bid, and he was rejected. And a lot of people think that Trump is like a child, and that when these guys, these powerful owners that he wishes he was one of, rejected him, he said, oh yeah. This happened, by the way, before Trump was president, obviously. I don't think it's that. Although, Trump, it could be. I don't think it's that. What do you think of this? What do you think that Trump is engaging in various things to really cement the support of his base in the event there are impeachment charges? Remember, the media has been doing everything it can to separate Trump supporters from Trump, and they'll fail every time because they had nothing to do with creating that bond. They can't break it. Only Trump can. What if Trump knows his audience? He knows what he said about the NFL is going to be very well received by a significant number of NFL fans. He knows that his supporters are going to be echoing it and supporting it, no problem. What if he's trying to buy impeachment insurance, for lack of a better term? What if this is all about Trump really just continuing to build and hold that bond he has with his supporters? But Rush, that wouldn't matter in impeachment. Your public support doesn't matter. Oh, yes, it does. You impeach somebody with positive approval numbers. Look what they tried to do to Clinton. It didn't work. It does matter. It does matter because everybody involved in it's going to have to run for re-election themselves down the road. And if they go after somebody with universal popularity or majority approval, could come back and backfire on them. I'm convinced that's why Lindsey Graham is who he is today. He was one of the House managers that ran the impeachment proceedings against Clinton. And there's some others. And they felt very embarrassed about it, and they took it on the chin because the Senate never seriously pursued it. Okay, break time. We'll see if the phones will hold up. It's not the phones. It's my display here. We'll see if it holds up. We'll get to the phones when we come back. Don't go away. We have Sean in Palm Beach Gardens. Great to have you, Sean. How are you doing?
Hi, Rush. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
Well, I am so disgusted at these NFL football players, like most of America right now. I can't see straight. And I just like to make a couple of points. First of all, Tim Tebow was fined for praying. Okay? So he's fined for praying. And we have Villanueva that does the right thing. He earned a bronze medal, served 3 tours of duty in Afghanistan. And Coach Tomlin, says he should have been part of the team. And so now we have Villanueva backtracking. And you know what I see? I see that we have racism in the other direction. I think we have Coach Tomlin, an African-American, who looks at this man and says, you know what? You are showing respect for the flag. It's the flag. It has nothing to do with the president. It's the American flag. And what he's saying is, you know what? I've been behind the scenes, he's saying, if you ever want to play on this team again, if you ever want to actually make a play again, guess what, buddy? You better say what you did was a mistake and that you meant to be with the rest of the team. Because I know how it works. I have been around football. When I was in my younger days, I knew the football players of a national championship team. And you know what? These guys, both black and white and Hispanic, they all get away with practically murder, okay? And it's white men that are putting up the money that have literally said to the schools, you know what, even though he doesn't make the cut.
Hey, wait. Hang on just a second. I'm running out of time. I don't mean to be rude. I'm going to respond to you after the break here at the bottom. I don't think Tomlin wants Villanueva to disrespect the flag. I don't think that's what that's about. I will explain what I think that's about. I'm very nervous when you use the word murder, even though I know you're using an expression of just speech here, but nobody's been murdered yet, and nobody's getting away with it. And I want to be, when this issue comes up, it's already charged enough. Without putting a cherry on top of it or a cherry bomb on top of it. But as to what you're saying, I've got a story that pretty much makes your point. So I'm going to end up making you look good here, Sean, and I want you to think about something. I'm going to hold you through the break, okay? Can you hold on?
Okay, I can.
Would you like a new iPhone 8 or new iPhone 8 Plus?
Sure.
Good. Don't sound so excited. We'll take a break and be back. Don't hang up, Sean. Be right back after this. The new iPhone 8, do you know anything about it?
I am. So, yes, I am actually excited. I'm sorry I didn't sound excited. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's okay.
More, but I love you even more.
I know you were stunned beyond belief, and you were
You're right.
practically frozen into expressionlessness. I just, you came out of nowhere. But do you know about the new iPhone 8s?
No, I don't. I've only heard about the weird one where you need your face, and I don't even want that one.
Well, then you don't have to get it, because I've got a brand new iPhone 8 or 8 Plus for you. They come in 3 colors: gold, space gray, black, and silver. And the silver is so gorgeous it's almost white. Now, there are 2 sizes: 4.7-inch screen or 5.5-inch screen. Which one do you want?
I'll go with the 5.
5. And what color? Do you have a preference?
I'll go with gold.
You go with gold. Okay, make a note in there. Now, I have this story. You got to get your address, and don't hang up, Mr. Snerdley. It's a FedEx address. We don't use the mail here because we don't get delivery.
I thought you wanted me to do it on the air. I'm like, I don't know about that.
No. After we no. It'll work with any carrier you have. It doesn't have a SIM card in it, so you can take it to any AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever, and get it activated. Thanks very much, Sean. Now, here is the story. She said that the players are getting away with murder. What she meant by that is they're never disciplined. But they are. They're fined. This is one of the great contradictions. The coaches, when the Kaepernick stuff started, the coaches also, I can't tell, these are grown men. I can't tell these boys what to do. I can't say you shouldn't do that. I can't say you shouldn't do that. I'm not that. But, Mr. Coach, you do it all the time. You demand they show up at a certain time of day for practice. If they're not there, you fine them. You demand they show up at a pregame meal at a specific time so you know they're out of bed and ready to play. And if they're not there, you fine them. You got all kinds of behavioral codes. There's a dress code for when the team travels on some teams. There's all kinds of ways you tell them what they can and can't do. But when it comes to this, well, I can't tell these boys that. Mr. Limbaugh, I can't tell these. And then the league fines them. The league fines them for having too much fun after a touchdown. The league fines them for any too hard a hit. The league fines and suspends them, for putting too much air in the football. They do all kinds of things. And yet, we can't control these boys. We can't say, but they do all the time. Now, there's a story here in the New York Daily News. Mr. Snerdley, he's getting the address from the super excited Sean in Palm Beach Gardens. Have you heard about the controversy with Odell Beckham Jr.? You obviously haven't. Well, the New York Giants played the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, and Beckham had a great game, had some spectacular catches. And after one of them, he pretended to be a dog and hiked his leg as though he were urinating in the end zone at Lincoln Financial Field. Yeah, it's been done. Randy Moss, when with the Vikings, he scored a touchdown in Green Bay and acted as though he were defecating on the goalpost. Remember what Walter Williams said? We're dealing with 8th grade mentality education level here. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Odell Beckham, he's in the last year of his contract with the New York Giants. He's demanding a 5-year, $100 million contract with $50 million guaranteed. And the Giants are determining whether or not they should pay it. And they didn't re-up him last year because they wanted to see if he would exhibit more maturity this year before committing that kind of money. So the New York Daily News, one of the 2 tabloids, has this story. Giants have a tough decision to make with Odell Beckham Jr. showing no signs of maturing. The owners of the Giants better give it a lot of thought before they pee away $100 million on Odell Beckham Jr. That's the lead. The writer here says, and his name is not mentioned, it didn't print out, but the writer says, I hate to be so crass, But after Beckham's disgraceful walking and peeing like a dog end zone act Sunday in Philadelphia, exactly what will he do next? And what are the Giants buying if they give Beckham a 5-year, $100 million contract with $50 million of it guaranteed? They get an incredibly talented, unstoppable game changer, maybe the best offensive player in team history. By the way, the Giants are 0-3 with, despite Beckham's talents. The New York Giants are 0-3. So they get an incredibly talented, unstoppable game changer, perhaps the best offensive player in team history, the most explosive force in the game today, but also, says the New York Daily News, they get a high-maintenance, volatile diva with a flair for turning everything around him into unnecessary drama, who also damages the team with his me-first solo acts and then makes no apologies or promises that he won't do it again. $100 million for that, really? The owners of the Giants have not commented on Beckham's embarrassing behavior on Sunday cannot be happy with his latest act of immaturity. It has to be humiliating for the organization that prides itself on being so classy to have to answer questions of why its best player is making believe he's urinating on the field in Philadelphia. Well, take the elements of this story. What do you have? You have super-duper player, maybe the best offensive wide receiver at the moment in the NFL, genuinely a game changer, but the team on which he plays is 0-3. His contract is coming up, and you don't want to lose the guy. After all, winning games is what you and drawing people, pay the money to sit there, watch the games, watch them on TV, whatever. You need stars. Nobody denies that. But they got a guy that has repeatedly exhibited behavior way below the number of years of his age. And it's going to cost them $100 million with $50 million of it guaranteed. And once he's got the money, there's no stopping him. Whatever he does, you got to live with. This is not unique to the New York Giants, folks. This has been part and parcel of professional sports. The people that are able to do it are so few and so rare that it's been tolerated. You know the bad boys that have played all these different sports, and you know they're tolerated. They're tolerated way beyond the level they would be in any other line of work. And Beckham Jr. is going to get his money from the Giants. But look, nowhere else in America do you get money like this and do things like that. Nowhere else. And this is the kind of, and now you're not going to stand for the flag, and you're going to do whatever that is going to participate and drive some fans away from the game. This is what she meant when she said the caller to get away with murder. She didn't mean murder, and that's why I had to step in there because, you know, it's already charged enough without adding. Besides, it may happen someday. You just never know. But it hasn't yet. Well, no, that was off the field, and that's still not. At any rate, you see, my friends, what do? They're gonna show him the money. You imagine them not paying it, but I think it's really, really relevant that they are 0-3. They're 0-3. Well, that's if the broadcast money shrinks away, that's going to be a while. Because what else is going to replace the NFL is always going to be, this is the thing, what is there to replace it? Even with it, the ratings, and by the way, last night's game was up on ESPN. The Monday night games are up. The Sunday night game was down again. Overall, the ratings are down. Last night's game was up. In fact, Monday Night Football is the only thing that's up this year. But even with their ratings dropping, they're still the most watched thing on TV. What's going to replace it? On Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday, what's going to replace it? Nothing. It's still going to be, that money from the networks is going to flow one way or the other, and in certain amounts one way or the other. So that's why the Beckham story, this is what she's talking about. They get away with things that, and by the way, when there is a sense of entitlement after you get away with stuff like this. Why stop it? By the way, I'm on the highlight roll on ESPN. Everybody for 2 days saw that thing I did in the end zone. They love it. Absolutely love it. I got to take a break. More phone calls coming up after this. Don't go away. Mark in Fort Worth, Texas. Great to have you. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, Rush. Christmas came early this year for me. I've been a listener for 29 years. This is the first time I've gone through to you. This is the best.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Hey, I have a possible solution to this whole thing with NFL. I saw LeBron James this morning on TV, and he's going to be even more vocal and use his platform.
Okay, I need you to please slow down a little bit so I can keep up with you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so LeBron James was on TV this morning. He's going to say that he's going to use his platform to speak out further about these issues. And, of course, he's been a big proponent for the Black Lives Matter. So I'm suggesting as a possible solution, and you use your platform to challenge LeBron James to lead the way, sell his mansion in Brentwood, move his family to his old neighborhood in Cleveland, build a home there, move there, invest in his neighborhood, invest in businesses to create jobs, invest in low-income housing, even offer free housing, maybe invest in some schools, put his children in school in his old neighborhood. And, you know, I know he recently became married as well, so set an example and give back to his community, and then lead the way, and then encourage other athletes to do the same and to pour money back into their old neighborhoods, because they make this money, but he's spending his money in Brentwood these days.
Well, this is something that I have always avoided for professional and programming purposes. I do not engage in personal feuds or challenges or causes like cutting up your credit cards and sending them to Exxon. I don't know that LeBron James doesn't spend some of his money on his neighborhood in Ohio. I don't know. I'm not going to assume that he doesn't just because he lives in Brentwood. And to challenge LeBron James to do something, it's just not my style. I don't think it's effective. It might make a great media show, but it's not the way I choose to go about these kinds of things. I don't look at LeBron James as somebody's mind I can change. I'm not going to change LeBron James's mind. Like Scalia told me once, he's not going to change Stephen Breyer's mind on anything. He doesn't even try. And I wouldn't waste my time trying to. But the same people who listen to LeBron James might listen to me or vice versa. And he's now put himself in the arena of ideas, which is where I live every day. He's gone from the basketball court to the arena of ideas. And so I just choose to deal with this in a different way. My target has always been what I call the audience, the people, the population. I don't waste my time challenging Al Gore or Tom Steyer or Leonardo DiCaprio or any of these people, because it's showbiz, and half, if not more, of what they're doing is showbiz. And they really don't know what they're talking about anyway half the time. They're engaged in emotional appeals. And you remember when Boko Haram first kidnapped whatever number of girls it was, 300. What was the country? I'm having a mental block. What country in Africa did it happen? Doesn't matter. Okay, let's just call it Nigeria. It could have been Namibia. Could be Nivea. Could be Trump. Whatever Trump calls it is what we'll call it. Well, he got the name of an African country wrong the other day, and the media just went nuts with it. He called Nambia Namibia or something like that. I forget where. Lambda Namibia. But let's say it's Nigeria. Here's what happened. So, 300 girls got kidnapped by a bunch of terrorists. And what was the U.S. reaction? Michelle Obama cut a video that then showed up on Twitter and Facebook, and she was holding a sign, "Bring back our girls." Twitter hashtag, "Bring back our girls." What did old El Rushbo do? Pointed out the folly. What are we going to do now? We expect the Boko Haram terrorists to see the hashtag, bring back our girls, and start quaking in fear and return them? And then I said, obviously Michelle Obama is engaged in something other than getting the girls back here. Well, the reaction to that ranged from, have you no heart? Are you so cold-hearted and cruel that you have no soul? Are you so putrid that you... Because I had dealt with something not emotionally. I had challenged an emotional play. All it was doing was making the people doing the hashtag feel better. They weren't accomplishing a single thing except making themselves feel like they were involved and making them feel like they mattered and making them feel like they were making a difference. They weren't making a difference. They weren't involved, and what they were doing didn't matter. And I, in pointing that out, I was scorched by doomcoffs who had not the ability to understand that what they were doing was meaningless and, in fact, was probably being laughed at by the very terrorists who had kidnapped the girls. And so that's what's a long answer here, Mark, but that's why I don't engage these people doing emotional things, because it's a total waste of time. All that's going to happen is that you upset the very delicate emotional place they've created for themselves, where they think they're doing God's work. They think they're doing the Lord's work. They think they're mattering. They think they're making a difference. And I come along and point out that a hashtag is probably about as effective as not saying anything, and they can't handle it. And I became public enemy number one for about 5 days, maybe 5 hours, which didn't bother me, don't miss it, but it doesn't accomplish anything except a media show. And I was okay, but it was not what he was expecting. It's not what he thought Trump was going to do. Now when he finds this out, it's not going to be pretty. I'm going to hear about it. Republican tax, I hadn't anything to do with it, but I'm going to hear about it. Wall Street Journal news alert, Republican tax plan being released tomorrow will open the door to a top individual tax rate that is higher than the 35% that's been in previous plans, according to people familiar with the discussions. I need to remind all of you in the 35% or the 39.6% bracket that this is what populism is. Vast majority of people aren't anywhere near that 39.6 rate. More than you think, but not a majority. Tax cuts for the rich are not populism. They are conservatism, but they are not populism. Populism, you fire your shotgun, try to hit the majority of people no matter where they are, no matter what they think. The root of the word is popular. And if a majority of people want a wall, you say you're for a wall and you're a populist, whether you're a conservative or a liberal. And that's what populism. So populism is for cutting everybody else's tax cut, but the rich have got to pay their fair share. Now, obviously, that's a liberal view. It's a liberal way of looking at things. But it also happens to be the populist way. Supposedly, I mean, given the mindset of the American people now. I'm going to find out more about this as the week unfolds. This is just an example. The Republican Party, they just could be doing so much. They could be scoring so well. They could be just running the table. They could be setting themselves up for power for a generation. And they are not doing it. And it's just sitting there. It's sitting right in front of them. All they have to do is grab it. Anyway, great to have you with us, folks. 800-282-2882 is the email. The email is the phone number. The email address is lrushbo@eibnet.us. Little NFL update. Don't have any names here, but some players, I'm told, I'm going to have to check this out myself, but some players now, in various little vignettes and stories and sound bites, are saying that they respect the flag and they have nothing against the cops, and that's not what they're protesting. I said, what? Some are now saying that they respect the flag, they have nothing against the cops, but that's not what Kaepernick said when all of this got started. It was specifically about the cops. It was specifically about the flag. It was specifically, I can't stand and honor a symbol of a country that treats people of color the way it does. Now, all of a sudden, some, and I got to get some names, some are saying, no, we're not taking the knee to oppose the flag, and we're not taking the knee to oppose. Now, if this is, I don't know how many this is. This is a flash note I got here that I haven't had a chance to track back myself. So I have to say, if this is accurate, then I would have to say that the pressure is being felt by the players. Trump's not backing down, is he? Trump isn't, but Trump doubled down today in Twitter. So let me get a little bit more information about that. That's just enough to titillate you with, but I can't take it to the bank. In the meantime, I have this piece that I had yesterday, and I intended to get to it, but the NFL topic took up the vast bulk of the content portion of the program yesterday. This is Kurt Schlichter at Town Hall. And the title of his piece, Conservative Inc. is being replaced by us militant normals. Let me tell you what this column is about. The conservative movement, quote unquote, it's always been thought of to be a specific certain thing with membership of specific identifiable individuals. And it was always thought that there was unity within the conservative movement because conservatism is a set of principles and core beliefs and values, and if you ascribe to them, you're a conservative, and if you don't, you're not. Well, that isn't the case anymore. Conservatism has been butchered. It has been redefined as people seeking to lead the movement wish to define it. Conservatism has become exclusionary. In other words, some of the big-time leaders of the so-called conservative movement, and I mean in their minds, the leaders, have decided to say that certain people aren't conservatives, even though you might think they are, and certain people are. And one of the litmus tests was Trump. And at first, it was impossible for any real conservative to support Trump. And if you did, then you were betraying conservatism and you were betraying everybody who believed in you as a conservative. There was widespread fear, disgust, and anger over Trump because Trump became as popular as conservatives really want to be. Conservatives, I think, would love to have the kind of popularity Trump had during the campaign, but they haven't had. Reagan did, but there are few beyond Reagan that have, but many of them have sought it. Trump came along and appropriated some of the conservative agenda, and not all of it, and parts of the conservative agenda that he appropriated, the leaders of the conservative movement thought that Trump butchered, and they felt very, very frightened and scared that Trump was going to ruin conservatism by redefining it as populism, and that many people were going to end up thinking they were conservative when they really, really weren't, when they really, really were populists. And so the leaders of conservatism, and these are self-anointed people, by the way, they publish magazines, they run blogs, they run websites. Many of them are media related. Many of them live off donors, a very conservative thing to do. But But nevertheless, they are self-appointed, and they were sitting there deciding who was and wasn't and isn't a conservative. So Mr. Schlichter comes along here and breaks this down and unpacks it for us. Conservative Inc. is being replaced by us, militant normals. They give you a pull quote here. This is the kind of thing, if I were going to highlight this to send to somebody, I'd have to highlight the whole thing. But nevertheless, here's a pull quote. Who are the normals? The Americans who built this country and defended it. When you eat, it's because a normal grew the food and another normal trucked it to you. When you aren't murdered in the street or don't speak German, it's because a normal with a gun made those things not happen. We normals do not want to rule over others. We don't obsess about how you live your life, but also we don't want to be compelled to signal our approval or pick up the tab. We are every color and creed, though when someone who is incidentally a member of some other group aligns with normals, he, she loses that identity. The left drums normals who are black out of its definition of black, just as normal women get drummed out of womanhood and normal gays get drummed out of gayhood. In a way, the left is making e pluribus unum a reality again. To choose to be normal is to choose to reject silly identity group identification and unite. Instead of saying normal Americans, you can just say we're Americans. Now note that while leftists rail against the term normal, Mr. Schlichter says when I use that term on Twitter, the reactions are always delightful because they know. You know what I mean when I say normal American, don't you? Many of you in this audience consider yourselves normal Americans. And you know that because you're normal, you're under assault. Because not everybody is normal. There's some oddballs out there. There's some freaks and kooks. And you know who they are? They know who they are. But they don't want to be considered freaks and kooks. So they attack you so that you can't be normal. And you can't say there's a normal. We're a melting pot. We are a diverse, giant melting pot of all kinds of different things, and there is no normal. And youth who think you're normal are going to be attacked. And that is part and parcel of what's going on. Militant normalcy is the result of normal people roused to anger and refusing to be pushed around anymore. Mr. Schlichter writes, we prefer a free society based on personal liberty and mutual respect, but if you leftists veto that option, that leaves us either a society where you rule and oppress us, or one where we hold the power. So let me break this down both for the left and for their fussy Frida-Kahn enablers. You don't get to win. Those are pull quotes. Here's the beginning. I guess now we're not supposed to be fighting culture wars anymore. Man, it's so hard to keep up with these ever-changing new rules. I'm old enough to remember way back to 2016 before Trump got nominated, and I could have sworn that Conservative Inc., the conservative movement run by the conservative elitists, I could have sworn that Conservative Inc. was gung-ho for the whole culture war thing. But then Trump came along and actually started to fight it, taking on the big soft target that is the spoiled, semi-literate athletes who like to rub their contempt for the flag we love in our faces. Now we suddenly discover that fighting back is uncouth. And it's just not done. Fighting back is so messy. But Conservative Inc., oh yeah, they were all for fighting the culture war on the page, in the think tank, from the podium. But don't really do it. Don't actually go out there and actually fight the culture war against the left. That's so messy. I would have thought from all those cruise panels about how our crumbling culture is slouching toward Babylon and the need to resist the liberal onslaught that maybe we ought to actually resist the liberal onslaught. But see, that was my mistake, writes Mr. Schlichter. I took it seriously when Conservative Inc. promised to fight the leftist blitzkrieg against normal Americans. But it was all a scam. It was all a lie. It was a pose for us rubes. The true cons true conservatives didn't really mean it. And there's a lot of that non-meaning it going on in the GOP right now. Exhibit A, John McCain, ran ads touting how he was leading the way in opposing Obamacare, only to give it aid and comfort when somebody in the White House would actually sign its repeal. McCain is the guy the establishment designated to lose to Barack Obama in 2008, and McCain was up to the task. But in retrospect, because McCain's inevitable presidential betrayal of conservatives by breaking his word then and treating Republican voters like he treated his first wife would have done exponentially more damage to conservatism than Trump ever could. Did you follow that? Just checking. Because that's quite a hard-hitting statement. That McCain and his betrayal of conservatism is so routine and profound that had he ever been president, he would have done more damage to conservatism than Trump could ever hope to. We move on. It's so good to know that despite his wonderful, close, awesome friend humiliating him while lying to Arizona's voters, Lindsey Graham is still the Blue Falcons' buddy. No hard feelings. And then there used to be a thing called conservatism, and I knew it pretty well since I was part of it for about 30 years. But conservatism changed, becoming less about principles and more about money-grubbing, navel-gazing, and intellectual onanism. Do you know what onanism is? It's masturbation. You might want to pronounce it onanism. You might want to pronounce it onanism. I guess onanism makes the point. So now that you know what the word means, let me reread the sentence, okay? But conservatism changed, becoming less about principles and more about money-grubbing, navel-gazing, and intellectual masturbation. Actual Republican voters, actual normal Americans, well, they became kind of beside the point in the tumbler-clinking world of the John Boehner cons and the corporate-friendly compassion cons who put the interests of everyone else ahead of the GOP voters who voted the establishment in. Conservatism forgot about the real world conservatives that we expected to line up behind us. While we were talking about free trade, we were ignoring that GOP voter who fought in Fallujah, came home, got a job building air conditioners, raised a family, that one day watched the video of the oh-so-sorry CEO who looked a lot like Mitt Romney, because a lot of these guys look like Romney, sadly informed his beloved employees their jobs are getting shipped to Okaka. And our response to the 58-year-old Republican voter who asked us how he was going to keep paying his mortgage and his kid in college, pretty much, well, that's how free enterprise works. Read some Milton Friedman. Go learn something. I got to take a break here, but you get the gist of it. This is it's an unveiled attack on the phoniness and the pretentiousness of what Mr. Schlichter thinks is the conservative movement. Conservative Inc., they write, they speak, they talk, but when it comes time to doing, you can't tell them apart from the others in the establishment. And the coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and that would be Pete Carroll. Now, I knew about Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger wrote on his personal website that he didn't sleep Sunday night. Did you hear about this, Dawn? Dawn's a big Steelers, but after Sunday, she's abandoned him. She's not even reading about him. Roethlisberger wrote that he couldn't sleep Sunday night, not because they lost to the Chicago Bears, but because they didn't go out for the anthem. The team voted on it, so he went with the team. Oh, there's a player for the Tennessee Titans. Last name is Becker. Oh, his wife is Jessie James Becker. She's an actress, song stylist, whatever. She has written that he was tricked by other members of the team, not told the truth about not going out for the anthem. He would have gone out if left up to, but he was told that the whole team was staying in, and he was tricked into staying in. I haven't had a chance to read her whole post. There are some people backtracking now about this. Now, Roethlisberger said it was not a protest of the flag or the anthem. He said, I personally don't believe the anthem's ever the time to take or make any type of protest. For me and many others on my team and around the league, it's a tribute to those who commit to serve and protect our country, current and past, especially the ones that made the ultimate sacrifice, those who were killed. Now, in the Steelers case, the coach held him in because he didn't want the team to have to make a choice, is what he said. He said he needed to protect his players, which they're the ones doing this. But he said he didn't want them to make a choice. He didn't want half of them kneeling and half of them standing. He said, you're just not going out. And Roethlisberger wrote that that was a mistake. He thought it was bad. He wanted to go out there and he wanted to stand. And that then leads us to Villanueva, Alejandro Villanueva, nicknamed Al. He 3 tours Afghanistan, decorated special forces. Not a captain. He went to the team. He went to Roethlisberger. He said, look, can I stand at the front of the team with you captains at the tunnel so that I can, I want to stand for the anthem. And they said, sure, of course. Well, he went beyond where the rest of the team was. He was the only one. The Steelers were there. You just couldn't see them because they were 10, 15 yards back in the darkness of the tunnel. Villanueva was the only Steeler seen, and he's now apologizing for doing the right thing because he feels he let his team down. He feels he embarrassed his coach because the coach wanted total unity, not on the field during the anthem. And he said he didn't intend to be so far out of the tunnel he could be seen. We've got the sound bites. I'll get to them here in just a second. Then we move on to Seattle Seahawks coach Pete Carroll. I don't think it's been so directed at just the flag or just law enforcement or other thoughts. That's not at all what the players are expressing. They're expressing the freedom of speech and expression. They have a lot to say, and they're skilled at what they want to say and what they stand for. Well, now that's just, forgive me, you know, I know Pete Carroll is, but that's just gibberish. Let me go through this again. I don't think it's been so directed at just the flag or law. It most certainly what's got all this started. That's exactly the guy who started this, Kaepernick. That's exactly why he did it. The left has taken this over, folks. And I'm telling you, half these guys out there doing this don't even know why they're doing it. They're doing it for unity with their brothers and so forth, but half of them don't even know why. The other half do, but some are being misled. It is about law enforcement. It is about hands up, don't shoot. Don't doubt me. It is about police brutality. It is about prison overpopulation. That's the message that they're protesting. Now here comes the coach of the Seahawks saying, no. They're just expressing themselves. They're expressing the freedom of speech and expression. And they have a lot to say, and they're skilled at what they want to say and what they stand for. I know what he's trying to do. Is it harsh to call that gibberish? It's gibberish. But the point is, there's some people walking this back now. And they're walking it back for reasons that I explained to everybody yesterday. You cannot have a business that openly, with gusto and eagerness, protests the United States of America and grow that business. You just can't do it. It won't grow. And the left doesn't want football to grow. The left wants to inflict great damage on football. They don't want to wipe it out because it's a cash cow that they can then run shakedown scams on. They don't want to wipe it out. But they do want to take the patriotism out of it. They want to take the love of country out of it. And this is right up the left's, right up their alley. Got guys protesting the flag and making it look like America's still a slave state. That's right up the left's alley. And there's no unity here. There's no unity resulting from this, despite the flowery lingo. Here's Alejandro Villanueva yesterday in Pittsburgh Steelers practice facility. He held a press conference to apologize for standing for the national anthem Sunday in Chicago against the Bears.
When everybody sees an image of me standing by myself, everybody thinks that the team and the Steelers are not behind me, and that's absolutely wrong. It's quite the opposite. The entire team would have been out there with me. I've made Coach Tomlin look bad, and that is my fault, and that is my fault only. I've made my teammates look bad, and that is my fault only. And I made the Steelers also look bad, and that is my fault and my fault only. So unwillingly, I have made a mistake. I've talked to my teammates about the situation.
You know, folks, let me tell you something. I got a message from George Brett last night. And you know what it was? His message says, "Boy, have things really changed." And it was a video of Rick Monday saving the flag from an anti-America protester at Dodger Stadium I think it was at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Rick Monday became an overnight national hero like Villanueva was on Sunday because he saved the American flag. He ran out there and he picked it up and saved the flag, and he was heralded and he was loved. We've gone from that to an entire country celebrating Rick Monday saving the flag to a thrice decorated Special Forces Army man in Afghanistan apologizing for standing up to the national anthem. No, I don't know if anybody asked him to go out and say this. There's no way we could know. Oh, I don't know. Since this morning, maybe somebody's delved into it. I just take him at his word. There's one more from Villanueva. Reporter question, you have one of the highest selling jerseys. People are treating you as a hero. You stood up. What would you say to people that are trying to put you up there on that pedestal?
It's completely wrong. And every single time, I see that picture of me standing by myself, I feel embarrassed to a degree because, again, like I said, unintentionally, I left my teammates behind. It wasn't me stepping forward. I never planned to boycott the plan that the Steelers came up with. I just thought that there was to be some middle ground where I could stay in the tunnel. Nobody would see me. Anybody who thinks that Coach Tomlin is not as patriotic as you can get in America, or any one of my teammates or the owner, I take offense to that. And so that's kind of how I feel when I see myself standing alone in the national anthem.
So he said that he saw the video of him standing alone and he felt embarrassed to a degree. Look, I understand this Alejandro Villanueva is a humble person. You can tell this even if you don't know him. But because of his experience in the United States Army Special Forces, those are humble people. They do not stand out. Normally, Special Forces operation, you won't know who pulled the trigger unless one of the Special Forces guys wants to go and get a Fox News gig. It says he did it, but normally they don't do that. And I'm sure he did feel embarrassed because he was afraid it would look like he was thumbing his nose at what the official team stance was. He wanted to do both. He wanted to stand for himself at attention for the flag, but in the tunnel. And the fact that he was the only one seen, he's worried that his teammates are going to think he was one-upping them and going outside the plan. I can understand. Well, he's snurdly saying, don't sell us on Tomlin being so patriotic and so forth. He's the ultimate team guy, snurdly. And he's a Special Forces guy. I understand what he's doing here. Now, you might think he's just making it all up. Look, I understand this Alejandro Villanueva is a humble person. He's taking one for the team, and Roethlisberger, I think, came out as the quarterback, is got Villanueva's back, in a way, at what the official team stance was. He wanted to do both. He wanted to stand for himself at attention for the flag, but in the tunnel. Art Rooney II has posted a statement on the Steelers website explaining that they didn't take the field in Chicago because they didn't want to make a political statement. So, wait a minute now. Rose replied to him, and she sent me what her reply is. She said, Dear Mr. Rooney, taking the field and standing for the anthem is how you avoid making a political statement. Standing for the anthem is not a political statement. And we refuse to have it turned into one by those who are actually making a political statement by not doing it. She is exactly right about this. The left creates the false choice, and they equate the patriotic choice with a political statement. Standing for the flag is a sign of respect. It's not tied to politics. Somebody stands for the flag of the anthem. You don't know if they're Democrat, Republican. You don't know what they are. She's exactly right. It is not a political statement. The thing to do is to stand for the anthem like they've always done in the recent past, at least. It has not always been done, by the way. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. The anthem was not even televised. It was a commercial break that happened, but the players were still out there standing because the league wanted that to happen. But now, celebrating America, standing up for America, celebrating the flag, the left calls that a political statement that needs to be. And her point, Mr. Rooney, it's not political to stand for the flag. That's how you avoid politics. She's dead on right. Another tweet from a friend. This avalanche of NFL jersey sales for Alejandro Villanueva happened to be for a player with an avalanche of vowels in his name. He is Hispanic. So I guess racist America is looking past this fact and making his jersey number one. Yes, because America is so racist, it is making Alejandro Villanueva's jersey the number one seller in America right now. I love these because they just ram it right down the throats of these leftists who are corrupting everything they touch. There's no mistake about it. You know, folks, a lot of people, a lot of families in this audience getting reacquainted with memories that they have packed away in various parts of their homes. Old Super 8 camera movies, home movies, videotapes from camcorders that were Betamax or VHS or what have you. They're in the closet, they're in the basement, they're in the attic. We have a sponsor here that will digitize all of those memories for you. They'll convert them from 20 and 30-year-old tapes and films and photographs to DVDs. It's called Legacy Box. They start the whole process by sending you an actual box, a crush-proof box, comes to your home via FedEx. You load that box with all the videotapes and pictures and movies on film that have been stored up over the years in your house. They're no longer viewable because the gear in your home has changed, so you can't watch Super 8, Betamax, or VHS. Legacy Box will digitize all of it, DVD, thumb drive, whatever you want, and they'll FedEx it back to you. Now they know how you value all those memories. They take great care of all the media you send, whether it's a set of pictures, Super 8 film, it doesn't matter. They accept it all. They digitize it all. And what you get back from Legacy Box in a matter of weeks is a set of DVDs with all those memories organized and preserved for a long time to come. If you want to use a computer thumb drive, ask for that instead. DVD, thumb drive, whatever you want. The best part of the experience may be the rediscovery of what's on all those old movies and films and so forth. I mean, you're keeping them for a reason, but you can't watch them. Now you can. Legacy Box. Go online, legacybox.com/rush. Pick the size of the Legacy Box you need them to send you, and then go from there. You get 40% off the plan you pick when you use my name. That's legacybox.com/rush. These guys are in Chattanooga, and it's amazing what they do. Best equipment, professional equipment, high speed. Get this stuff done, and back to you. Let's see. You know, I've got a couple of people on hold here I just don't have time for. Diarrhea of the mouth today, and I humbly apologize. Mr. Snerdley, get their numbers, ask we can call them back. All three of you, I promise, will be asked if you would like a new iPhone 8 or iPhone 8 Plus. Don't think you're missing out, because I do these on random days, not random calls. We'll be back. We'll be back here tomorrow, folks.